Hi there, welcome to my channel, and today we're going to be discussing what makes this album so great. Hello and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if this is your first time, and if it is your first time, don't forget to hit like, subscribe and tap the notification bell. It really does help the channel grow. Now today we're diving into a genuine landmark of post-punk. Siouxsie and the Banshees 1981 album, Juju. This is an album that's often described as gothic, but that label barely scratches the surface. More than 40 years on, Juju still sounds distinctive, unsettling, and completely its own. But first, why am I doing this retrospective? Well, apart from really liking the album. But before we get into the album itself, I want to explain why I've chosen to revisit Juju right now. Well, I've just finished reading Budgie's autobiography, The Absence, and I honestly can't recommend it highly enough. When I say read or read, I actually listened to the audiobook on Audible, which is narrated by Budgie himself. That alone elevates it. Hearing him tell his own story in his own voice, with all the warmth, humour and occasional emotion only he could bring, gives the whole thing an immediacy you just don't get from the printed page. It feels like you're sat in a room with him as he reflects on his childhood, his early gigs, and the winding road that eventually led him to the Slits, Siouxsie and the Banshees, and later the Creatures. Budgie has always been one of my absolute favourite drummers, me being a frustrated drummer. There's something incredibly musical about the way he plays, inventive without being over flashy. One thing I've always loved is his use of the tambourine on the hi-hat, which you can hear so clearly on tracks like Spellbound and Israel. It gives the rhythm this shimmering, propulsive energy that feels instantly recognisable. It's such a simple idea, but in Budgie's hands it becomes his signature sound. The book traces Peter Clark's journey from growing up in St Helens, through the Liverpool function band circuit and into the professional world. What really struck me was how grounded his story is. There's no grand plan, no overnight success. Just a gradual evolution, one opportunity at a time. Listening to that story gave me a renewed appreciation for what Budgie brings to Juju. His drumming isn't just supportive, it's foundational. It defines the feel of this album. And finishing the book sent me straight back to this album with fresh ears. And that's exactly why we're here today. In 1981, Siouxsie and the Banshees had moved far beyond their punk origins. They were no longer reacting to anything. They were fully in control of their identity. A huge part of that shift came with the arrival of John McGeoch. Already admired for his work with Magazine, McGeoch brought a completely different way of thinking about guitar. He wasn't interested in riffs for their own sake. He created textures, shapes and atmosphere. From inside. Combined with Severin's brooding melodic bass lines and Budgie's hypnotic tom-heavy drumming, the band reached something close to a creative peak with Juju. For me, this is the definitive lineup. Now, I know a lot of people still champion the original lineup with Kenny Morris and John McKay, and that version of the band has its own raw power and historical importance, but for me, this lineup took the Banshees to another level entirely. The music became more expansive, more sophisticated and far more immersive. And right at the centre of it all is Siouxsie Sue, delivering one of the strongest vocal performances of her career up to that point, icy, commanding and completely assured. One of the things that makes Juju so powerful is how unified it sounds. This isn't an album where the songs feel like separate statements. It feels like a single atmosphere slowly revealing different shapes and moods with each track. Producer Nigel Gray keeps everything sharp and focused without ever making it feel clinical. The album doesn't rely on volume or distortion. Its heaviness comes from tension and restraint. McGeoch's guitar work is central to this. His parts shimmer and glint rather than crunch, circling around the rhythm section instead of sitting on top of it. Steve Severin's bass carries huge emotional weight, often defining the harmony and mood. Budgie's drumming is ritualistic rather than rock-based, tom-heavy, hypnotic and circular. His use of texture, including tambourine and subtle accents, is absolutely essential to the album's feel. And above it all sits Siouxsie's voice, sometimes cold and commanding, sometimes intimate and unsettling, but always in control. The result is an album that feels immersive, claustrophobic and psychological. Juju doesn't just sound dark, it feels inhabited. Now, you simply can't talk about Juju without talking about the late great John McGeoch. McGeoch approached the guitar in a way that felt completely removed from both punk aggression and classic rock tradition. Rather than driving songs with power chords and solos, he created movement through arpeggios, textures and patterns that felt circular and hypnotic. What made his playing so distinctive was how deeply integrated his effects were. Chorus, flanger and delay weren't added at the end. They were part of the writing itself. The sound was the idea. There's also a strong rhythmic quality to his playing. His right hand often locks tightly with Budgie's drums, turning the guitar into something more percussive. And yet, for all that tension, his lines are deeply melodic. He had an instinctive feel for balancing beauty and unease within the same phrase. On a personal level, John McGeoch was a huge influence on me when I first started playing guitar. He showed me what guitar could be about: atmosphere, restraint and imagination, rather than technique for its own sake. He made it feel cinematic. That approach went on to influence countless players, from Johnny Marr, The Edge, through to Johnny Greenwood of Radiohead and Kevin Shields of My Bloody Valentine.
A great guitar record is by Siouxsie and the Banshees, and it's called Spellbound. I mentioned John McGeoch when I talked about Shot by Both Sides of magazine, where the guitar on Spellbound is John McGeoch as well. It's a mixture of very direct and attitudey acoustic. I think it sounds like a 12-string, which is unusual. Amazing vocals by Siouxsie Sue and drums by Budgie, and the whole band ensemble is amazing for this under 4-minute song. The approach to the guitar on it is really dazzling, and once again something that is inventive and artistic whilst getting on the radio. I like it when things are inventive and still manage to get into the mainstream, but it's all held together with the guitar.
His influence runs quietly but deeply through post-punk and alternative music to this day. Juju is McGeoch's clearest statement, the moment where everything he brought to the instrument came together. Often labelled gothic, Juju is more psychological than theatrical. This album explores identity, compulsion, trauma, ritual and the blurred edges between reality and something darker. It unsettles rather than shocks, which is why it still resonates with me. My favourite tracks on Juju, rather than going track by track, I want to focus on the songs that, for me personally, define Juju. Now, Spellbound. This is a perfect opener for me, from Budgie's rolling toms and shimmering tambourine to McGeoch's spiralling guitar line. Everything is in motion from the very first second. Siouxsie sounds unstoppable, confident, urgent and completely in control on this song. It sets the tone for the whole album. That descending guitar motif on Arabian Nights is instantly recognisable, and the track feels exotic and unsettling, with a constant undercurrent of danger. Siouxsie's vocal is cool on the surface but deeply uncomfortable. Underneath, it's one of the most atmospheric pieces on the record. And then we finish with Voodoo Dolly, a perfect closer for this album. It unfolds slowly and ritualistically, building tension layer by layer. By the time Siouxsie finally erupts, it feels like the album releasing everything it's been holding back. Dramatic, intense and completely unforgettable. The copy of Juju that I own is the Abbey Road half-speed master cut by Miles Scholl from a high-res digital transfer of the original master tape. Now, despite the digital step, it's an excellent pressing, clean, detailed and punchy. McGeoch's guitar textures and Budgie's drums really shine on this pressing. Collectors still favour the original UK Polydor pressings, and I plan to do a vinyl shootout between this and an original once I find one in the condition that I want. So, why Juju still matters? Well, more than 40 years on, Juju remains one of the defining albums of the post-punk era. Its influence stretches across gothic rock, alternative, indie and experimental music. And it still feels alive, unsettling and completely unique. And that's it. That's my retrospective of Juju by Siouxsie and the Banshees. If you enjoyed this retrospective, do give the video a like and a thumbs up, and let me know your favourite track from Juju in the comments. And if there's another album you'd like me to cover next, drop your suggestions below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers. Bye bye.